So, Bill, tell me you're in Wisconsin right now.
I am. I am inside the city limits of Milwaukee, Wisconsin on the southwest side.
I hear some accent. Have you spent any time in Illinois as well? You got a little bit of Chicago vibe on you.
Yes. I grew up in Bridgeport in Chicago, and I definitely have a very thick Chicago accent.
Yeah, you did. Bridgeport, man, it takes me
That's
back.
Right. I'm on cloud nine right now with the White Sox being in the playoffs for the first time in 13 years. So
Yeah.
It's a good day for me.
So are you from Chicago? I mean, you've grown up in
Yes.
Bridgeport, but how long were you there?
Born on the south side, was delivered in Evergreen Park. Lived in Bridgeport until my mom got remarried when I was in 5th grade, and my parents still live on the far southwest side, about a mile west of Midway Airport.
Okay.
So all the way through to college, and then I went to Marquette University in Milwaukee, and I've stayed up here, but they haven't been able to get me to get rid of the accent or convert to being a Packer fan. So
This is not going to happen.
yeah,
I mean, there's just some things that are just poor taste. So.
absolutely.
Welcome to the EBFC Show, the easier, better for construction podcast. I'm your host, Felipe Engineer Manriquez. This show is all about the business of construction.
Today's episode is sponsored by
Bosch Refine My Site is a cloud-based construction collaboration platform that applies lean principles to enable your entire team to plan, communicate, and execute in real time. It's the digital tool that works in tandem with your last planner system process and puts it all together in one simple, collaborative ecosystem. This easy-to-use platform is available in English, German, Spanish, Portuguese, and French, and can be used on desktops, tablets, and mobile devices. According to Spencer Easton, scheduling manager at Oakland Construction,
Refine My Site, in my opinion, is the best, leanest tool on the market for last planner system.
here's what our users have to say. We've looked at 3 other digital scheduling platforms, and none compare to the straightforward approach Refine My Site takes. From milestone planning all the way down to daily tasks, this program gives every general contractor and their trade partners meaningful collaboration, accountability, and KPIs. Register today to try Refine My Site for free for 60 days.
Today's episode is sponsored by Construction Accelerator.
The design and construction industries come up with and build great things, but we also build and waste in how we do those things, in our interactions, in our contracts, in our logistics. So what does this do for our bottom line or our next project? The best firms maximize their value by removing that waste and only doing what's essential to the work, what makes them money. Construction Accelerator will train you to see the waste and give your teams the lean tools and experience to remove it immediately. All online. Construction Accelerator is made up of 3 to 9 minute videos that can be watched again and again in the field, at the office, and at home, all broken down by topic. Need to learn pool planning? We have videos on the process, how to set up a room, and how to kick off a team. Need to set up a target value delivery project? We discuss all the aspects of TVD, especially cost. Or maybe you just need to brush up on 5S. Well, we have videos on that as well. You can download and print reference materials to use on site to immediately translate watching into doing. Subscribe today at trycanow.com. Let's build an industry, not just a project.
Today's show is also sponsored by the Lean Construction Institute. LCI is working to lead the building industry in transforming its practices and culture. Its vision is to create a healthy and thriving industry that delivers outstanding project outcomes every time for everyone. Check the show notes for more information. Now, to the show. Welcome to the show, Bill Wagner. Bill, a fellow Southsider from Chicago, living in Wisconsin.
Yes.
It's all good.
Yes.
We're not going to hold that against you, Bill, because sometimes you got to get out of the city. I myself had to flee for opportunities, so I know exactly how that could happen. Bill, I'm so glad to have you on the show. You've got an amazing team of people working with you. Penta Technologies?
Penta Technologies Incorporated.
I've met Laura and Justin, and we've had some good chats about one of my favorite subjects of all time, Scrum. Ladies and gentlemen, we're probably not even seconds into the show, and Scrum's already been thrown down. I love that. Yeah.
I do too. Yeah, we are all about it at Penta.
I love that.
Yeah, the entire company is Scrum certified as a professional Scrum Master, including myself. I've gone through the class. I've passed the test. Every single person that works at Penta Technologies has done it as well. So we're true believers.
That's amazing. That's proof positive that everyone in a well-run organization understands Scrum.
Yes.
And I got that feel right away.
Absolutely.
Laura and Justin both definitely had the knowledge and the experience and the excitement. That's the other thing too. How many people listening are as excited as me and Bill right now talking about Scrum at work? Right? Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. You're missing out.
If you're not, you should be. Right? Like, and we'll make the argument over the course of this conversation for why you should be as excited as we are.
So, Bill, go ahead and tell all the beautiful people listening to the show, people, we love you and your support, and Bill and I appreciate you. And if Bill says anything that you want to find out more about, hit us up in the comments and let us know. I'll make sure we answer all those questions. Go ahead and, Bill, introduce yourself.
I am Bill Wagner. I am the president at Penta Technologies. I've been with Penta for just about 4 years. Penta Technologies actually marks my return to the construction industry because way back in the day when I had more hair, I started swinging a hammer for my uncle's general contracting business on the south side of Chicago. So, I love the industry. I love the industry almost as much as I love talking about Scrum.
Oh man, that's a show first, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's interesting to me, when I was working in construction, when I was in high school and college, I had no idea what Scrum was, right? It didn't really exist 30 years ago, but we were doing Scrum on the job site every day. We were doing short interval scheduling. We were iterating. We were having transparent conversations about the work we were engaging in every day. And so now, 30 years later, I'm at Penta Technologies. We're all about Scrum, building software for the construction industry. Everything's sort of come full circle for me in a pretty tight time frame, right? 30 years, start to finish, and I'm right back where I started, which is great.
Yeah, you started working in the industry just as Jeff was making Scrum, putting the final touches on it, making it beautiful and perfect. And so I think your whole organization has been trained by Scrum.org, which is Ken Schwaber's company. Just beautiful. Ken, co-creator of Scrum Inc. Powerful Ken Schwaber.
Absolutely.
I just saw him earlier this year, Bill, on the anniversary of Scrum. I think they just celebrated their 25-year anniversary. Yeah. I might be wrong on that 25, but I'm just going to go with it.
I think you're pretty close because, Scrum started because a bunch of software developers realized that just like on a construction project, nothing happens exactly as you planned it. So you can't plan the entire building out in a set of blueprints and then magically expect the thing to spring into being exactly as designed. It's the exact same thing in software, right? You build a piece of software, you're probably going to do a whole bunch of things you've never done before. You're going to have to learn. You're going to have to react to things that don't go as intended over the course of the project. And Ken and those guys that wrote the Agile Manifesto got a lot right about how to think about that type of work, which I think is why Scrum has lasted for 25 plus years and why it works as a system, not just for software development, but for lots of other things in business.
Absolutely. I've personally used it in education, research, construction, project management, with the trades. Mm-hmm. It just, it's like I told JJ, it works everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, Bill, you're working at Penta. You're a software company dedicated to helping construction professionals. I told your colleagues, Laura and Justin, caught my attention. I went to your site, and we'll put a link to their software site in the show notes so everyone can go check them out. I told Laura the thing that really jumped out at me is that you guys really, really do understand what project managers, what their work is and what they're struggling through. So I told her, it's like, it really shows in your site. A lot of software companies out there, Bill, you go to their site and it's kind of generic. Yeah. How did you guys get so special and targeted with construction project managers?
So I love telling this story, and it's going to take me a couple of minutes because we got to get it. We got to get into DeLorean together. We got to go all the way back to 1968. So Penta has been developing software for the construction industry since 1968, when our founder, who ran an industrial coatings business, painting bridges, cleaning out tanks for large industrial plants, he got hooked up with a computer scientist from the Milwaukee School of Engineering in Milwaukee and a consulting CPA to the construction industry. And they had the crazy vision to leverage mainframe computers to keep track of job costs to try to do better estimates. And that turned into a very successful business, obviously being focused on job costs using mainframe computers. The thing that was right next to keeping track of the job costs was managing payroll for construction companies. And in the mid 80s, we had thousands of customers all across the country. We were renting mainframe time from Ross Perot's company, and we would run your paychecks, run your job cost ledger, and spit the data back out and deliver it to your doorstep, right? So from the very beginning, we came out of a construction company. We were laser focused on this idea that if you're doing a better, more granular job of vacuuming up what is actually happening inside your business every day, you can use that information to make smarter decisions in the future. And so we did that in the 80s. In the 90s, we pivoted to a Windows-based accounting system that is now used by around 100 very large, very complex specialty contractors. Typically, the more difficult the business, the better fit we are for them. So companies with a complex organizational structure, union, non-union payroll, a lot of traveling labor force that are working outside of their home union local. We do that really well. And in the last 5 years, since I joined the company, we've started to expand our footprint in terms of the solutions we provide the market. We're really focused right now on the labor productivity piece of construction with our product Struxxy, which is kind of a labor project management tool for the job site. And we're a month or two away from bringing the very first cloud-based construction payroll calculator to market. And we're going to offer that as a component of other people's software that serves the construction industry. And so you think about this ability to tie the cost into the forward-looking plan. We're really excited about being able to arm project managers with that short interval view of what's happening on the job. And then because we have the ability to get to what a fully burdened hour of a given labor will cost in the future, we're really excited about turning the corner and being able to help project managers predictively plan what's going to happen in the future. And I think we're this close to it as an industry, and I'm excited about Penta playing a part in that transformation.
That's a beautiful thing, Bill. I mean, my listeners know that we've got, right now it's 2021, we have over 1 million unanswered jobs in construction that we can't fill due to lack of skilled labor out there. We had a lot of people we lost during the last economic downturn of 2008 that didn't come back into the industry when we contracted. So we definitely need ways to better understand the labor costs that we have, retain the workers that we have, and support our men and women that are running the projects, because it's not easy. Forecasting is one of the things that a lot of the more sophisticated clients often complain is not done well on construction project sites because of how they receive capital and financing for the project. So I think this is not, I don't want to say silver bullet, but I just kind of said it.
Yeah.
But I think this could be.
I mean, behind every silver bullet's a lot of hard work, right? And I think the idea that you can leverage data to make smarter decisions in the future, it's already happened in a lot of industries. And so, I told you a little bit of my story. I started in construction as a kid. I left. It took me 30 years to come back. In the intervening time, I worked in healthcare, e-commerce. I worked for ABB, one of the largest electrical engineering companies on the planet, for 9 years. In all of those other industries, because there's not as much variance in the work being performed, they got a head start on construction in their ability to leverage data to make smarter decisions, because the work is so much more repeatable in a factory, right? Or in a distribution center. And I think the construction industry, because it is a service business, right? You don't hire a specialty trade contractor to hand you a finished building or a finished HVAC system. You hire them to perform the work. Because of that, I think we're all a little bit too in love with our existing business process, right? Because your existing business process is how you won business against your competitor. And so you really don't want to mess around with it. And what we're trying to do, what all these construction software companies are trying to do, what the capital markets are doing by dumping hundreds of millions of dollars into construction technology companies right now, is get the tradespeople to realize that embracing software as a toolkit to make your business more efficient, make the labor you already have more efficient, it's a necessary next step in the evolution of this market. And I think we're right there. We're at a real tipping point, which is something that I get really excited about.
And Bill, I saw on your site you have a lot of different solutions available for even EPC, industrial construction, other construction, self-perform, and concrete. Can you tell me a couple case study-like stories?
Absolutely.
To kind of, perfect.
Yeah. So one of our favorite customers is a company called Lithco out of Cincinnati. They're right now, I think they're either 1 or 2 in terms of revenue for concrete contractors in the United States. Unbelievably progressive company. The executive leadership team is very forward thinking, very bright. They've got really diverse experiences and skill sets from outside the industry. And they do a great job leveraging our accounting product to keep track of everything at a really granular level, right? So they're squeezing every last point of margin out of their projects because they know what works. One of the things that we recently did with them was we armed their people with a tool that allows them to keep track of labor productivity, not on a monthly or weekly basis, but on a daily basis. And so now you're not quite yet in front of all the bad things that can happen on a construction job that might cost you to lose time or lose money. But if less than 24 hours elapses before people know about it, as opposed to a week or 29 or 30 days, think about how much better equipped you are to respond to those things. And so working with them, we have a really strong case study with those guys where keeping track of the labor every day, by employee, by cost code, and what kind of production happened inside those cost codes for those units of labor that day, they're poised to get in front of this. And when you talk to their VP of IT, and he's also their special projects guy, he talks about, this analogy is so good. He talks about, 6 years ago, what we would do, we would go to the driving range, we would buy the large bucket of balls, we'd hit all the balls out there, and after we hit the entire bucket, we'd pick our head up and look and see where they all landed. And the only opportunity you get to tweak your swing is on the next bucket of balls, the next project. And he said, what we're doing now, because we're taking this much thinner slice using the software, we're hitting one ball at a time every day. And every day we get an opportunity to tweak our swing. And the thing that we're going to work on together next is how do we turn this into the Golden Tee video game, where you can point the arrow where you want to hit the ball, and the computer software tells you what club to hit, what employees to put on that task, on that cost code tomorrow. And then it's real easy. You just got to follow the swing path and you'll hit the ball exactly where you predicted you could hit it. And that's the type of thing that required them to open up the business process that I talked about earlier. They needed to embrace some change inside their business, but the payback on that shift was almost immediate for those guys. And so that's one of my favorite case studies from the last couple of years.
Bill, what I really like about that story, number one, the analogy is spot on. I mean, that is like perfect.
He's a really smart guy. I couldn't pay him enough for that story, right?
That's the average and the typical for even small construction companies all the way up to the big players at the multi-billion-dollar level. A lot of estimating is done in really big swings, to stay the analogy, with very large buckets of balls, and adjustments often are not made until projects are at handoff points or complete. And then when a job's in flight, just getting that feedback from 30 days to weekly to a daily, I mean, it sounds like a dream to do that type. I only know of like 2 construction companies, 2 general contractors that self-perform and do costing and update reporting on a daily basis. It's just very rare. It's so rare. And just to think that you can reduce that variation and know like what people have the skills to come in and course correct on that location of where the balls are getting hit, or where the work is, how the work's being put in place. I mean, that's something that is like invisible.
Well, you talked about Justin, who's a member of our team earlier. Justin was a project manager for Bechtel. And one of the interesting stories he tells is he built a spreadsheet that would allow him to realize when he was getting behind on a phase of a project. And when he was, the thing he would start looking for is how many man hours is it going to take to get that work done on time? And how large is the space that I'm going to ask 14 laborers to inhabit for the next week to get that work done? And he knew that at some point it becomes untenable, right? I can't put 10 electricians in that 10-foot by 10-foot room. And so now I got to figure something else out. And the only way that you get to that level of control over your project is to take as thin a slice as possible and to be looking at it on a regular basis.
It's intuitive. And it sounds like you nailed it with having to change their current processes. That's the real tough. That's the tougher challenge.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that I still see way too much of is project managers, project leads, foremen who log what happened weekly. And the question that I ask 100 times out of 100 when I run into people who tell me that that's the way things are being done, do you really remember what happened on Monday morning? Because if you don't have perfect photographic recall of all of the things that unfolded over that probably 60-hour work week for yourself and maybe up to 30 people, it's a creative writing exercise and you're fooling yourself with bad data. And you know, we just had a thing recently happen that I think a lot of people should go look up. Autodesk and FMI just released a research paper on the cost of bad data in construction. Their estimate is that the construction industry lost almost $2 trillion in 2020 just because of bad data.
Oh, that's like making my stomach hurt just thinking about that.
That's 2 Facebooks. Right? Like that's 2 trillion. Like that's a hard number to conceptualize as a human being, but I'll make it easy for everybody. The construction industry lost enough money to buy Facebook twice in 2020 just because we're doing a bad job of capturing, organizing, and leveraging the data we generate. And this is all happening while the amount of data being generated by the construction industry is exploding. I think that the stat they said is over 75, I want to get this right. I think it's 30% of the people they surveyed said that they have 75% more data today than they did 3 years ago.
You've got the massive increase in Internet of Things. You've got everybody's got a camera recording device in their pocket today, which we didn't have before.
Yes.
5G is a reality now. And so you got even faster data transmission. We're creating, I don't even remember, but I've heard statistics on we create more information every day than recorded history.
Within that, massive opportunity, because if you know how to sift through the data for insight, there's gold there. You just have to know how to break out the pickaxe and mine it. And I think, I keep talking about how we're at a real inflection point in this industry. That's one of the things that makes me most excited to work in this market, is I feel like these types of inflection points are rare in a given human being's life. I was lucky enough to live through the dot-com boom back in the mid to late 90s when I was just out of college. And now I get to live through something very similar in the construction industry, where I feel like the technology is finally catching up to the users. And I think this stuff is starting to get easier and it's starting to get democratized. And it's going to be really interesting to see who the winners and losers are as it relates to being able to wield this new toolkit that's available to everybody.
No, you're totally right. And people coming into the industry now, like even the tradespeople are coming in at a much higher level of technology usage than ever before. Yeah. I can remember even like 6 years ago, I was on a very poor cell phone that I don't even want to mention the carrier, what type of phone it was. And I remember the person that was coming to do some kind of plumbing stuff had a cell phone that was like 1,000 times better than my company issued phone. It was just like, it's just so easy for people to get like the latest and greatest tech now, and you can do a lot. Like they organized their entire workforce on their whole plumbing team was all like using text messaging for where to go every day. And I thought, man, when's that going to come to us?
Yeah, isn't that amazing? I was at the AGC IT conference a month ago, and there's a panel discussion about network infrastructure in construction companies. And the bring your own device concept got brought up. And all the guys on this panel, who are all technologists at large GCs and specialty contractors, I would never do a bring your own device policy. I don't think we could manage the risk. And then I sat in that exact same room a day later when we ran, show of hands, how many people are working in an IT department that employs less than 5 people? And 90% of the hands in the room shoot up. And I'm sitting there as the president of a technology company that does accounting software that embraced bring your own device 2 years ago. And now, like, my infrastructure people inside my business don't worry about managing individual hardware devices. They worry about network security. And the great thing about this is, for less money than if I was supplying everybody with their laptops and their tablets and their phones, everybody in our business has the latest and greatest technology at their disposal 24/7. And it's like stuff like that. I think it's really easy to gloss over it. But what a powerful concept, and what construction companies are doing that right now, right?
Not any that I know of.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think the wave is hitting the shore right now with all this stuff in our market. And I'm excited to see what unfolds, because you get out from under having to give everybody in your company a 3-year-old cell phone, and you let them bring their own stuff, and you provide good guidance for how they should keep that stuff secure. The 22-year-olds that are coming out of college, they know this stuff already. It's not hard to teach them. I mean, the number of construction companies I talk to when we talk about software, and they say, the vast majority of our guys out in the field, they don't have smartphones. They don't have email addresses. 90% of the people above the age of 13 in the United States have a smartphone right now. So I'm willing to bet that the vast majority of your field labor, they have email addresses, they have Facebook accounts, they have smartphones.
Right.
You're sticking your head in the sand that this is what's happening around you. And I'll tell you what, a 22-year-old who grew up with social media, who had an iPad in their hands when they were 10 years old, they're not going to want to fill out a paper time card every day. Right. No. And a lot of construction companies are asking them to do just that. And so, to your point about how do we get the young folks into this industry? How do we get them excited? I think we have to meet them where they are. And they're a lot more advanced than I think we realize.
Hey, real quick.
Construction is one of the only industries that's become less productive over the past 6 decades. 60% of construction job cost is labor. 80% of construction projects are over budget. 60% aren't on time. Struxxy replaces paper timesheets and manual data entry with easy-to-use software. How much are inefficient job sites costing you? One of our customers estimates they'll save millions per year with Struxxy. Read the case study at our website, Struxxy.com. That's STRUXI.com. Software for hard work. You can also visit us at World of Concrete in Las Vegas come January.
Oh, 100%. And having grown up and almost injured my hand on taking handwritten notes and converting it to software, it's so painful, and there's so many errors. Like when you're transcribing something secondhand, your chances for mistakes are higher. And if you're using software and you can simplify the input to drop down menus or checkboxes, you're greatly reducing the errors, and your data is going to be so much better. I think, Bill, I think from memory, 2018, 2019 numbers, the United States construction industry was about $3 trillion a year, 11 million workers. So if I use your 2020 number, that means 2/3 of everything we did was wasted, which again makes my stomach hurt just a little bit.
Yeah. And you know, I mean, you see these research papers, right? McKinsey did their efficiency of the construction industry report back in 2016. They're intentionally provocative, but there's definitely a vein of truth running through that stuff, right? And so you could argue over the number. There's fuzzy ways to get at the number, but the problem exists. And I don't think anybody would argue that we don't have those problems as an industry. And what's great about it is those problems, if you want to be an optimist, which I am about it, it's a huge opportunity. It's unprecedented. I mean, if we could all put $2 trillion back into the industry, right, there's your infrastructure funding that we're all waiting with bated breath to see come from Washington, D.C., right?
Right. It would transform everything. And also we want to make it the industry to attract people worldwide. Bill, about 1 out of 6 people work in construction. And I was just spending time at a conference this week, and I bumped into 3 different people that I spent time talking. It was not a construction conference, but 3 different people out of a dozen people that I met left the construction industry 5 or 10 years ago and don't want to come back. And when they asked me what I do, it's like, what I'm doing, I'm working to stop people like you, good people, from leaving our industry and keeping you inside. With the transformation capabilities that you have with your technology, and technology is inevitable. Like if you're out there thinking that it's not there, go walk your job site, and we can point out technology all over the place. It's everywhere now. It's there because it's got to make it so that we can get the work done easier with less effort. There's only so many hours in the day. There's no reason to work so incredibly hard for so little yield. Let's use the technology and software to help us. So I think that's one of the cool things about your company's approach. And I think I heard something, in addition to bringing your own devices, that you have a very unique office location working from home policy.
Yes.
Share what that is,
Bill? So March 13th of 2020, I was about to get on an airplane and go visit a bunch of customers in the middle of nobody really knowing what was going on with COVID. And we had some conversations. I talked to the customers. I said, hey, look, I don't know what's going on. I'm a healthy, early middle-aged guy. I'm happy to take the risk of getting on an airplane, but I don't know what I might be bringing into your conference room. And it was shocking to me that our customers, who really wanted to have face-to-face conversations with me, said, no, why don't you stay in Milwaukee? We could have these meetings over Microsoft Teams. And so on March 13th, we made the decision to close our office. And we had an evergreen lease at the time for our company on the southwest side of Milwaukee. And we decided to start meaningfully investigating what is it going to take for us to get rid of our physical location as a business. And, you know, a lot of work in a lot of surprising areas, right? Where's the mail going to go? Right? What are we going to do with all the physical records that we're bound by law to keep in storage? What about our server room, right? We're a software company. We had a ton of equipment in our server room. And what we did, we leveraged some of the principles of Agile, right? We're a Scrum business. We said, let's take this thing in small slices, right? We'll start figuring out what we're going to do with the post office box. We'll get a Tiger team together and they'll work in 2-week increments to start moving the server room up to the cloud. And in March of this year, we went office free as a business, and it's currently, permanent until we decide otherwise. We are a fully virtual business. We have a co-working office that we rent in Milwaukee that is much more affordable than a $750,000 annual lease on a giant office space for 100 people. And the couple of things that happened as we made the transition, we started to pick up a lot of unplanned efficiencies in the work, right? Shifting all of the stuff in the server room to the cloud increased our security, right? Minimized our exposure to threat vectors with cybersecurity. Created more availability for the systems that were running in the server closet. We got more efficient as a business because there were less distractions in the work. Software developers, their job is hard. It requires focus. Context switching has a huge cost. So if I interrupt the software developer for a 2-minute conversation, it takes that software developer on average 15 minutes to get back to where they were before I interrupted them. So we started cutting down on the unintended interruptions in the work, so the work got more efficient. And the biggest one for us, we are now recruiting talent nationally, and we have a built-in advantage when we have to compete for a given person because people like the flexibility inherent in working from home. Everybody gets an annual work from home stipend. Another unintended advantage of that, we actually get tax benefits from that as a business. So we get more of a tax break not having an office than when we did functionally on our books every year. And, I'm an extrovert. I like being around people, right? That's why I'm president of a company. But all of those advantages have far outweighed the satisfaction of my own ego when I get to go into the office and interrupt people whenever I want. So it's been a really great thing for us as a business. And I it's not for everybody, it's not for every business, but I think it shows that the agile mindset and thinking about iterating and adapting, we really embrace that, and it's been a huge benefit to our business over the past year and a half. When a lot of businesses that we compete against, I still see them struggling mightily with how they deal with the new sort of working environment that's been forced on all of us because of COVID.
That's very true. How long has your Scrum transformation been, or started? How long ago did it start?
We started 2.5 years ago. And we had to pick a flavor of Scrum, or a flavor of Agile. We went with Scrum.org because we felt it was a very lightweight way of getting into it. And the decision we made at the time was everybody in this business is going to go through the training. Everybody in the business is going to take the test, because we thought it was very important that everybody have the shared language and that we raise the floor for everybody. So everybody's got a universal understanding of what we're talking about. And Scrum really gave us a toolkit to reshape the talent inside the business. So we've churned through a lot of people in the last 2 years, and the Scrum framework of radical candor, transparency, inspection, adaptation has allowed us to iterate on a much faster time series than if we hadn't have done it. And it timed out perfectly because we had about a year of experience with this new way of thinking about the business when COVID hit. And I think that year really prepared us to be able to do a lot of unconventional things as we've navigated through these unprecedented business conditions.
I mean, it sounds like everything that we know Scrum to be, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're listening to Bill Wagner, you got to hit pause, rewind, and listen to him one more time. all that happened in a span of less than 2 years. It can be very quick. Very quick. I mean, you just described things just with your migration to the cloud and the change in your location policy for your employees and your ability to attract more talent. I mean, those are 3 massively different moving parts and pieces of a business that I don't think most businesses could take care of in less than 3 years.
Right. Well, and we've done all this while we've had a massive pivot in our underlying business strategy too. So we're very aggressive as it relates to being able to take on change at Penta. And Scrum has been one of the foundational gangplanks of our ability to take on all of that in such a short period of time. It paid for itself almost immediately.
That is perfect to hear. I love hearing that, Bill. Like, everyone knows how much I love Scrum. I always get super excited. I got to take a breath and come back to zero here for a second, because it's not all about how much I love Scrum, but it's a lot. It's a lot about that.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you too, Bill, as you're making this transformation, have you found it that your company started growing as a result of these changes, or because of the shift? Okay, so it's just a straight yes.
Yeah, I mean, we're a lot more profitable now than we were 2.5 years ago as an enterprise. And the arrow's pointing up because we're bringing 2 new products to market that I think have explosive potential, not just for our ability to transform the industry, but also our ability to grow as an enterprise. And so, it's one of these things where I've been around long enough that I know how hard it is to thread 18 successive needles with a business. And I 2 years ago when we started a lot of this stuff, I was really nervous. I figured we're going to miss a few of these needles and it's going to set us back. And, a couple of them might end up having really serious negative consequences. And because we've done it one needle at a time, because we've done it the way Scrum teaches us to do it, I think that has been a huge part of our ability to thread all of those needles in a row with the office, remaking the face of the company as it relates to the talent we employ, moving things to the cloud, bring your own device, work from home stipend, shifting the business into investing in the 2 new products, changing our go-to-market approach. I mean, all of those things, any one of them taken in isolation, I think would be something that we would have been very proud of accomplishing inside a 2-year timeline. And we've done all of that in parallel with a relatively small company, and we've done it without having to take on any outside investment too.
That's incredible. It's like Jeff says in the Red Book, more than twice the work in half the time. And like
Absolutely.
Scott Maxwell says, almost always, if you're not doing it wrong, you should be getting 3 times the work in a third of the time. And I've seen that. That is incredible, Bill. I think that's inspirational for everybody. It shows you, everyone listening, how powerful the framework is. And the framework is super simple. We're talking about 5 meetings, understanding 3 different roles, and then just redoing it all the time. That's it.
Yes.
Simple.
Just, get started. Type Agile Manifesto into your Google machine and start there. And after you read through the Agile Manifesto and the underlying tenets of Agile, tell me that wasn't a powerful thing for you to get into your cranium, right? And then once you do that, then you could launch into actually trying to pilot it and implement it in part of your business. It's real easy to get started because of the inherent simplicity.
It is. And then just as you're reading that manifesto, just substitute the word software for working product. And in construction, everything we do is work in place. And a lot of the solutions that your company has, Bill, what I really love about it is the challenge. And this was the same challenge at Toyota and at many different automobile manufacturers. But I think Taiichi Ono said it best when he said, the only thing I'm doing is shortening the duration from the time that the customer makes an order until we get paid. And what you're doing with your software solution for so many project managers is you're helping ease the burden of all that work that has to be done in order for people to get paid for the work that they do, that the value that they create for the clients that they're building for. So anything that you can do, I mean, I use software too. I have lots of algorithms in play for the type of work that I do. That definitely makes my job easier.
Absolutely. And when you adopt that agile mindset, you develop this almost supernatural nose for where the waste is located. And we've talked about how much waste there is in the construction industry. And I think, that laser focus on transforming the means of production into business value by shortening cycle times, right? That's elimination of waste. And when you get good at it, you almost become allergic to waste organizationally, which is a really powerful concept. It's one of the main things that I think put Toyota on top in the 80s and 90s, is because they were able to push that sort of distaste for organizational waste all the way out to the edges of their entire enterprise. And think about the power of that in a 150-person construction company.
Yep.
Think about how life would be better if you could do that.
And we have the benefit, Bill, you and I being alive now, because it took them over 25 years to push it out through their organization. And now it's worldwide. They're sitting on, a war chest of, I think, a couple $1 trillion. And they make more money. I've seen this number multiple times than the next 3 competitors combined in profit every year. Yeah. And I always tell Jeff, Jeff, it's not all about market evaluation. Tesla's stock value will not always be higher than Toyota.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the market cap thing, the example I always throw out to people is look at Walmart versus Amazon. And for years, Walmart did way more revenue and way more bottom line profit than Amazon. But because everybody looked at Amazon as a tech-enabled disruptor, the market valued them at 10 to 100x of what they valued $1 of revenue at Walmart. And to your point, that's not going to hold up long term. It's interesting, though. One of the things I love to talk to construction companies about, to kind of tie all this stuff together for them, is if you try to sell a specialty trade contractor to a new owner, how are they going to value your company? They're going to give you some multiple of your annual profit. Imagine if they looked at you like you were a tech-powered disruptor of the construction industry. Could you maybe get a multiple of your top-line revenue? Right?
That's a big difference.
How much money did SoftBank throw at Katerra when Katerra was a vertically integrated construction company, right? And SoftBank gave them $850 million because they viewed them as a disruptor that was going to leverage technology and leverage some of the concepts we're talking about of business agility to shake up the construction industry. Wouldn't you like to have a little bit of that shine on your own business if you're running a construction company? I think that there's a real strong financial case to be made for that. If you look outside the industry and you look at what's going on with the way people are evaluating companies right now that have the technology as a through line of how they think about the business.
It definitely gives them some golden wings and elevates what they can get. And
Absolutely.
I think, Bill, people are recognizing that technology has been disruptive and transformative. It's not just disruptive, it's transformative, and it allows people to be more adaptive. Yeah. I mean, just the way you and I are connecting right now, I think we're separated by 3,000 miles and
right,
an inconvenient 2-hour time zone difference. Yeah. But we're still able to connect 2 kids from the South Side. Man, what are the chances?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. I mean, it is definitely transforming, and people get to hear this conversation worldwide in over 60 different countries, and they can see themselves in the story. Because like you said, right, we know if you've spent any amount of time in this business, you know that sometimes construction can be just fraught with waste and non-value creating things in terms of the customer's perspective. Because some of those things and some of those processes, like you said earlier, are baked in how we do things because it used to when you work. But yes, what used to work doesn't work anymore. And even Katerra is no longer a business anymore. Right. They got disrupted. What they were doing wasn't sustainable for a lot of complex reasons.
Yeah.
And so, but the good news is all those employees that work there are now released back into the marketplace. And now companies that are picking up that talent can stand on their shoulders and push ahead and keep the good things and let go of the things that didn't work.
And that's how transformation happens, right? It's not flipping a light switch. It's one day at a time.
Absolutely. One day at a time, and it takes time. I want to go back to your company, Bill, and pull
Sure.
from you. What's another story of, like, if you could share a more medium-sized company doing work, like from a project manager's perspective, how does your software help them?
We work with a mid-sized electrical contractor here in town that works on a lot of really progressive projects, right? Like they did all the electrical install at the new arena where the Milwaukee Bucks just won their championship. And their VP of operations, really smart, really progressive guy, he brought in lean consultants to work with his project leads to root out the waste in the work that these electricians were doing every day. And for those of you that don't have a lot of familiarity with the electrical trade, you know, electricians are kind of like your one-man show, I can do it all, right? Little CEO of his own pile of work that day, right? One day I might be pulling wire, I might be knocking together conduit. Another day I might be doing low voltage control work. And so there was a lot of fragmentation in the way their business would tackle the work every day. And it started with a 3-ring binder with these consultants. So at the end of every day, hey, every electrician, take 5 minutes out before you leave and write in the binder what you got done that day. And then somebody's going to take that binder and digitize it. And now we're going to have a data set. And now we can go through and look at it. And so we're a little bit closer to what's actually happening, other than the way they used to do it, I'm guessing, which is have a project manager show up once every couple of weeks and walk the job site and be like, okay, these couple areas of the project, I'm good. Oh my gosh, what is happening over here? We're behind. This is a mess. There's a ton of rework that's going to happen. We're missing pieces and parts, right? Now that they're taking that thinner slice, and they didn't use any technology originally to get started. But then once everybody got comfortable with thinking this way, once all those electricians realized, okay, like these guys are wanting to make sure that we're tackling the work in the most efficient way possible every day, hour by hour. When we came in and layered our technology on top of that to digitize that 3-ring binder, suck all that information into their accounting system, and to be able to do more forward-looking reporting on that stuff, it was a really powerful transformation in the business. We just recently deployed our latest piece of job site software to their job sites, and it's not the type of thing that's having to be driven top down into the job site. These guys on the job site are hungry for the next digital tool that's going to make doing that thing a little bit easier. And you put it in their hands, and it's amazing to see how fast they figure it out and how fast they take to it. And it's because these guys were really smart about ramping into it and not trying to eat the entire elephant in one bite.
Yeah, that's a beautiful story. That whole process of, I mean, that's one of those necessary wastes that we have to do to track. Because unfortunately, we can't just say, there's my work, pay me. There has to be some way to get the data in, verify, and then get paid. So I love that you're streamlining that and making it simple and supporting. And I love I love hearing electrical contractor back in my old hood. I consider Wisconsin part of my hood because we used to drive up there for some cheese.
Nice. The other thing with these guys, I mean, like your electrical tradesmen and women, they're really smart. Like electrical's not the place where you go if you want to shut your brain off for 8-9 hours a day, right? And getting each individual empowered to take ownership of being productive, that is a really powerful concept. And then once you do that, should anybody be surprised that all those guys and ladies are looking for the next tool that's going to make them more efficient? It's no
surprise.
Yeah, I mean, I love to tell the story. Like, I'm old enough when we got rid of cords for drills on job sites. You know, as a 16-year-old, I knew that cordless drills existed, and I go to my uncle who ran the general contracting business. I'm like, hey, Casey, we should probably pick up some of these cordless drills It's a no-brainer. He cut that check immediately. And from that day forward, no more extension cords getting tripped over on the job site. And, back in the late 80s, early 90s, cordless drills were not very good, right?
No, they weren't.
You would tear through batteries every hour and a half. But even still, even with those technological challenges, we were so much more efficient with a couple $1,000s worth of skilled 12-volt drill drivers in our tool belts than we were using the old, corded hole shooters that we used to lug around. And then think about what it's like to be up on a 3-story ladder, having to reach over to put a drywall screw into something. The drill now weighs 1/3 of what it used to, and you're not having to get a 150-foot extension cord. Like that was technology disrupting the job site, and it happened instantly. And so the challenge I put to people is like, why can't you do that with a piece of software? It's the exact same thing. And we have lots of examples. I just gave you one of companies that are doing it very successfully. And guess what? Those guys are beating you if you're not doing it. They're making more money and they're winning more business right now as a result of making those types of decisions.
Right. There are only so many jobs that you can chase, but if you can do better with the resources you have and use the creativity of your workforce, you can do more jobs.
Absolutely.
With less effort. That's agile, baby.
Yes,
Bill,
100%.
It has been my pleasure having you come on, and I think we met the threshold for talking about Scrum. I am delighted. You made my day. I'm going to just float around for the rest of the day thinking about all the cool things you guys got going on with Agile in your organizations and the companies that you're serving. Thank you so much for being on. You get the last word, Bill.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about this stuff. I hope everybody that's listening found it valuable. I'm easy to find on the internet, so if you want to engage in a conversation after the fact, everybody should know where to find me. Just stick it in Google or LinkedIn, and I'll be there.
I'll make it even easier than that, Bill. We'll have a direct link to
perfect.
you in the show notes, people. As promised, always delivering easier, better, and faster with Bill Wagner. Very special thanks to my guest. I'm Felipe Engineer Manriquez. The EBFC show is created by Felipe and produced by a passion to build easier and better. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, everybody. Let's go build.